Welcome to Topics. Let me go here. Welcome to Topics. I'm Phil Gallagher, along with my guest today, David Magliozzi. And our topic, welcome, Dave.
Hi.
And our topic today is the accordion and its renaissance. We want to start from the very beginning, both in the invention of the machine, or instrument, I guess not a machine, and David's interest in it. And let's begin with that, Dave. You've been playing for over 60 years.
Over 60 years, yes.
How did you start?
Actually, one day I came home from school with a clarinet, and my mother said, "Take that back." We lived in a very small apartment. She says, I want you to play piano. Of course, we couldn't get a piano into the little apartment we lived in. And I was just lucky that there was a traveling salesman with a car full of accordions. He came to the house. And he was from the Arlington Academy of Music on 1 Pontos Ave, right here in Burlington.
That was in 1960, right across where Tom Grosso was.
Yeah,
right?
I think they opened in 60. I started taking lessons in 61, I believe. Yeah.
So, do you have thoughts of, at some point, you've been playing all that time, you started playing professionally when?
My teacher, Frank Zagorowski, we called him Mr. Z, took me out when I was 13 years old at my first gig out in Mattapan.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it a wedding? What kind of a gig was it?
No, it was a dive.
Really? I hope they weren't serving
We
liquor.
had drums, accordion, and piano. He played the piano.
Great,
Yeah.
great. So, what were your thoughts about, at that point, you know, you're making some money, you're 13, making a little money.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts about perhaps making a career of it musically?
Oh, it sounded good to me. My mother and parents said they forbade it.
That was the end of that. So that began your career in biology, I guess.
Yeah, I went to Merrimack College and studied biology. I was going to go to dental school. I actually got in, but my band was going really good at that time. so I didn't go.
So you had a side gig for the band, but you eventually were transferred into a number of different careers related to medicine, right?
I got into nuclear medicine after I went to school at Lowell Tech at the time, and got into nuclear medicine at Salem Hospital. And after a couple of years of that, I transferred into special chemistry, put my biology chemistry to work. And after 10 years of that, I got tired and slid into IT. That's when the Apple II came out, and I got into programming,
Right.
and they didn't have a computer system in the hospital.
Right. And
It was
there you
easy.
were already with a combination of
I
skills.
had the combination.
So let's talk about the accordion. When was it invented?
It was invented in the 1800s, I think 1827. It was this fellow named Cyril Damian. I think he's from Austria. I think he was from Armenian descent. He built organs for churches and stuff, and saw a need for something compact. So he developed this little thing. They called it. The name of the accordion is called the Damian.
After him, yeah.
And as soon as it came out, it spread like wildfire through Europe. A fellow named Wheatstone took the reed idea and made the concertinas, and it spread through Scotland, England, Ireland. And then there was a fellow, Henrik Band, took the concertina idea, made it a little bigger, and he developed the bandoneon for churches. But then that took off in Argentina. It's a big instrument in Argentina.
So this is the reason why you see the accordion as part of all kinds of genres of music.
It's everywhere.
Okay.
It originally was developed for folk music. The original Damian accordion could only play folk music and polkas, maybe some waltzes.
Right.
That was in his patent. His patent said this thing plays waltzes, marches, and foxtrots, I guess.
Yeah. And now it plays zydeco and blues and weddings and.
Yeah, the original accordion didn't do well in blues.
No.
It got very popular in the Deep South in the 1850s, 1860s. They had these little accordions because they were mass produced. It was
Right.
before the guitar.
Well, it's a squeeze box, right? They
It's a
call it
squeeze
those days.
box, yeah, in one row, and it couldn't play any blues notes. So their type of blues sounded kind of funky. And that's led to the zydeco and that sound.
Now, what is the internal items within the instrument? I guess you get the the sound through bellows, correct?
Yeah.
But it wasn't originally a bellows. Was it a reel of some sort?
No, it's bellows.
Bellows.
First Damien, yeah. So it's a sound box. There's two sound boxes, one for the right hand, one for the left hand. And there's some buttons that open and close valves. And I brought a reed block. I don't know if you can see this. This is a reed block. It looks like a harmonica. In fact, that's
So those are the actual valves that the air
these
blows
are
through.
the reeds. The reeds and the valves are the leathers on the top. So when you blow this way, the leather closes the hole. When you blow the other way, the leather lifts up and lets the reed vibrate. So you can actually blow in. So if I push the note and I squeeze my bellows, it puts air to this. And it gives you your sound.
So like a big harmonica.
It's a big harmonica. Harmonica's in the three reed family too.
So, but there's two aspects of it here. You have on the right side, first of all, obviously you have to memorize this thing because you can't be looking at it all the time when you're
Yeah.
playing it on your
You
chest.
should pick it up, right?
So the others pick it up.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all familiar with the keyboard here on the right
The
side.
original ones were just buttons.
I see,
They were
okay.
buttons, and they made the melodeons and the button boxes. And then when they came to America, there's these two brothers, the Darrow brothers, Guido and Pietro, and they saw it. They knew how to market this thing. They said, build me a piano keyboard, because they loved the piano in America. And they got into vaudeville with it and became very famous. So this thing was pretty hot from like 1905 to like 60 is when it started to die out.
Just after Lawrence Welk, right?
Yeah.
I can remember, that was my first acknowledgement of the instrument was seeing, I forget who that fellow was. Pretty
Myron
famous.
Florin.
Myron Florin, that's who it
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
Myron Florin playing the accordion for
Yeah, he was
Lawrence.
good. Yeah.
Now you got two things going on. You got the keyboard, which I fully understand.
You push this, it pulls out a lever, pulls it away from that reed block I showed you, and lets the air go through. There's a sound box over here, and there's another sound box over here.
Okay, but there's
So
two
these are
sides.
airtight. Nothing that goes through it.
Oh, nothing that goes through the other side.
No,
Okay.
unless I let the air in and I push the button.
I see.
And unlike a piano is a very percussive instrument. You push the note,
Striking the string,
and
right?
the sound disappears. An accordion just hangs on.
It's like a wind, right?
It's a wind instrument. Yep.
Right. Now, the keyboard I understand. The left hand I don't understand at all. The buttons, what do the buttons do there?
Well,
You have
remember, the original accordions were all buttons.
all
on both
buttons,
sides.
right.
And they were arranged. That's all it did. There was no chromatic part. Didn't have
Oh,
that.
I see. It didn't have the black
So
keys.
try to play blues with just white chords.
Yeah.
So the same thing in left hand. But it's very convoluted. You go. You got to go up 2 buttons to get the next note. Then you go over to get the next note. Go down to the next note. Up 2 for the G. Down for the F. Up to the
Okay, not quite like a guitar fretboard, huh?
B. So you got to learn these patterns to get any sound out of it.
Okay, so
You can't see it, so you got to memorize it.
you got to memorize that entire thing.
But it's the same patterns for everything and every key. So once you get it down, you can start anywhere.
Okay, and it's a different, okay.
Very same thing.
And it's an octave, is it all the same octave or is it octave up and down?
It's only 1 octave
Mm-hmm.
unless you change with these buttons.
I see, okay. Okay, now, there's
Each
also...
one of those octaves requires one of these harmonicas.
Whoa, really?
Yeah,
Really?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah,
Six of
blowing
those
through
in there.
different, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because any number of notes are being blown through the,
Right.
okay. Now, this is different in that it actually has individual notes and it has chords that you can play a chord,
Yeah.
for instance. Like playing a note. Not playing a chord. I see.
This was the genius of a little town in northern Italy called Stradella. So they call this bass the Stradella bass. They came up with the organization. Like, it's arranged in the cycle of fifths, if you're familiar with music.
Right, sure, maybe,
C,
sure.
G, D, A, E,
Right.
B.
That's a major scale, right?
Those are the cycles.
Right.
From C to G to upper fifth, upper fifth, upper fifth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the circle of fifths. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's how it's arranged.
Okay, so quite a complex little
Then-
instrument to learn how to
Then you
play.
go forward, you're in thirds. C, yeah, that's the root, that's the third, that's the fifth.
Yeah. That's why I'm not
There's a
much of a
sixth.
musician. You know? A lot of math involved in music. That was never my strong suit. Okay, so 200 years ago, what happened to it? I mean, it was a rage up until the 60s, and then it's kind of disappeared.
It's acoustic music. It's an acoustic
Oh, okay.
instrument,
Mhm.
and the electric guitar came in with all its power,
Right, right.
and then they could bend notes and do all this cool stuff. And these things, when you got to the 60s, it got pretty expensive.
Uh-huh.
When they first started off, people could afford them. When it got to 1960s, they got more and more complex.
More elaborate, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And they went from a few $100s to thousands of dollars.
Right.
And the guitar was what? A couple hundred at the
Right,
time?
right. You can still buy a knockoff
Right.
Stratocaster for $1.25. You know, not to mention all the ones that have been bought previously that are floating around out there.
Right, right.
So, yeah, this is quite an elaborate instrument. How old is this one?
This is, to me, it's only about 10 years old. It might be 12 years old total.
Okay. All right, you acquired it
Yeah.
used. Now, are there any enhancements? You know, with the guitar, you can do fuzz and wah-wah and distortion and all the rest of that. Is there a stomp
Yeah.
box for accordions?
Use the same ones as the guitar.
You can.
You can fool with the sounds, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So you're 13. You're playing gigs. Then what happened? You switched over to piano. Did the
Well, the accordions, I used to get a lot of work until I was about 25. And then people just didn't want accordions anymore.
mhm.
Yeah. Lawrence Welk killed it on us.
Right, right. So you switched, and then you were doing gigs with piano.
Yes, I bought myself one of those heavy Fender Rhodes pianos.
Had a luck that to every gig, right?
Look at that thing. Oh, it was awful.
So you've played with a number of notable Burlingtonians, correct?
I sure did, yeah.
I know you sat in at my wedding with Frank Gentili in 1970.
I played your
You
wedding.
played it. You played it.
Yeah, it was part of the
That's
trio.
right.
Frank was a local violinist.
Yeah,
He used to play the 4th of July, 3rd of July for the town hall
Town hall.
every year.
yeah, yeah. Frank played.
Used to do
Well, that
with
was the Knights of Columbus, which is
Knights of
what the
Columbus.
regular venue for Frank and his band
Right.
on a regular basis. You also played with Tommy Vento.
I learned a lot of my music from Tommy Vento.
He was a music teacher here for quite a number of years in the school system.
Yeah.
And let's have a little, take a look at your board here of notables. Can we take a look at that, Jen or Robert? There we go.
There we go.
Okay, let's start at the top, and then we can gradually scroll down. Who's that up in the left-hand corner?
The reason I have this accordion is because I found out in 2009 I joined the Massachusetts Accordion Club, and there was a guy playing these arrangements. And he said, "Who is that?" I said, "This is Frank Morocco." I had no idea who he was in 2009. So I started an accordion group on Facebook. I started inviting people. It got very popular, and Frank Morocco even joined it.
Really?
And I heard he was going to be out in Las Vegas. I said, "I'm going." So I went out to Las Vegas. I saw him. He says, "David Magliozzi, you're the guy from Facebook." So he took a photo and he signed it for me.
Right. Now, I didn't realize you actually started that whole group, and you've traveled. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Who's this up in the right-hand corner?
That's Kathy Travis. She's from Australia. And we used to have this cottage down the Cape, and we used to gather every summer from about 2010 to 2016. we invited her and she came.
From Australia. She was a member of the group.
Well, she was coming to USA anyway. She was going to play at, she had a couple of gigs over here. And she spent a week with us.
Right.
What a throw.
Yeah. And down the right-hand corner, this is you in New Orleans,
I was
right?
in New Orleans, yeah. I was invited to play in a samba band in New Orleans.
So there's another genre that the instrument
Yeah,
fits.
I
huh?
played on the streets, accordion on the streets too. It was kind of fun.
Yeah. And who is this in the middle? Is that a Burlington?
No,
No?
no. The woman to the left of my friend there is G. Ravi. She's from California. She happened to be traveling through, and she said she was going to be playing in Somerville at the Lily Pad. So I went, and we grabbed that picture.
Great, great. And over here on the left, if we can scroll up, Robert, a little bit.
That's Angelo DePipo. Angelo was from Rhode Island. He's prominent in New York. He's well into his 90s now, but he was in the Godfather wedding scene playing the accordion.
Great,
Yeah.
right. And up a little further, Robert, on the right-hand side, who do we have there?
I went from one of my friends on Facebook. I went up to Victoria, British Columbia, and I got invited to play in a house party.
Great, great.
So those guys are from the symphony up there.
Okay, up a little further, Robert, please.
The guy,
Okay, on the left here, who do we
the
have?
guy on the right is probably the top accordionist in the world right now. It's Richard Galliano, and I got a chance to meet him. And this was at the Jazz Standard in New York, maybe 5 years ago.
Great,
Yeah.
great. And on the right, that's the squeeze box, right? And we have
That's
familiar
a
with
concertina.
concertina. That's what they
Yeah.
call it.
And this was as a gathering every year out in the western part of Massachusetts, Beckett, Massachusetts, called Nessie, New England Squeeze In. And I had seen a picture, Facebook or somewhere, of like 100 people standing on a porch.
Okay. You want to take off the accordion, Dave,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
for a minute? Okay. Up a little bit, Robert, please.
The bottom left, that's me marching in the samba band. And the middle picture, I was performing at Nessie, New England Squeeze In.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And who is this down here playing? Is that the clarinet or the sax?
It's the saxophone, that's Brother Geddick.
Brother Geddick, another,
From Geddick Plumbing in Burlington. I used to do a lot of work with him.
sure,
Yeah.
another famous Burlingtonian.
Yeah, yeah. There's quite a few. Yeah.
Okay, so there's an article in the Burlington Union actually from 2013, which they preceded my realization of the accordion renaissance by 8 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's happened? There has been a renaissance actually in the instrument.
Yeah, a lot
has
of
there?
rock bands have been using like Sheryl Crow and Mellencamp, and they just added for color. They have the accordion sounds.
Dropkick Murphys.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Irish music has become very popular, and accordion's going big. And Django Reinhardt.
Django
music.
Reinhardt. Well, there's the Django Festival, right? Now, do you go to that?
I go to Django in June every year. Been doing that for the last 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
it's
why-
all guitar players, like 400 or 500 guitar players.
Right, all playing Django single note, right?
Yeah, and originally there was maybe 2 or 3 accordion players, but now, last time I went, there was about 20 accordion players.
Well,
So-
what kind of, where does the accordion fit symphonically in various ensembles? What works for the accordion as a co-instrument in an ensemble?
Well, accordion can do it all. It can be a comping instrument. You can just play chords and rhythms in the back. I can use it as a solo instrument, play like a saxophone part or a clarinet part.
Mm-hmm. And what are these, and how does it fit in the blues? Obviously, it must match up with the guitar pretty well. And how does
Oh yeah, well you can play in any key and it can play some blues notes. You
Right.
can actually, if you hold the keys just right, you can sort of bend the note a little bit.
a little bit like bending up that string
And
like
hopefully you don't break
B.B.
the
King.
reed.
Yeah. Now, you've been playing, what are you playing for gigs now, generally speaking?
I occasionally go around with a vocalist from Newburyport. We do a lot of French gigs.
French
Yeah.
French gigs? You mean
Yeah,
French music?
French music, yeah. Yeah.
Is there a lot of call for that? I mean,
Up there, yeah, there's pockets where they like the cafe music, and,
Right.
and that's kind of fun.
well, that's actually New Orleans would be an extension of that too, wouldn't it? A lot of
It's a different kind of French music.
different kind. Yeah, Zydeco music,
Yeah.
etc.
And there's traditional music up in Canada, and it's a different kind of accordion music.
Acadian, yeah.
I'm
Acadian.
playing at Tewksbury in a little cafe. They feed me, and they give me a glass of wine.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going there right after this.
That's what they say about musicians, right? Give me a stage and a glass of wine, and I'm ready to go. And you're doing some volunteer work, I guess you would call it, visiting various assisted living facilities
Yeah.
and things of that sort.
That's sort of fizzled with the COVID. But
Right.
before that, I was going at least once a week to.
Right. And
Different
you're active
facilities.
up at the senior center too? Must
Yeah.
get called for that. We're getting called for that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So what's in the future? What's the plan for the future?
For me,
Yeah, you're gonna play more gigs, or you're taking it easy? I know you're retired out of
I'm retired, but the music's starting to pick up. And I'm having fun. I'd like to get in a Django band.
in a Django band.
Yeah.
Are there must be Django players around
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
With
there's open mics up in Lynn that I go to when I sit in and play. And
and there's Django players up there.
well, they're from Wakefield around here.
Uh-huh. And what about at Berkeley? Is there
A lot of big thing, yeah.
a lot of gigs around there?
Yeah.
Hmm.
There's a club called the Bebop, and there's a Django band there every Saturday.
Right at Berkeley or around Berkeley?
Bebop's like across the street.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But I haven't
Great.
been there yet.
Yeah, I haven't been
Wanna
there.
go, Phil?
You're waiting. Well, I'll go. I'll go and listen. But you know what I?
Bring the guitar.
Yeah. Well, I would bring it, but I certainly wouldn't play it under any circumstances. Yeah, my musical career is quite limited. I play for the sofa, and that's the extent of it, really, really. So tell us about your organization on Facebook. What have you got planned there? Where are you going? Where have you been?
Oh. Well, it's a closed group, so usually I get a request. I ask them a series of questions, and they're serious about it. I don't want advertising on it or anything. It's just
Right.
for people to play, and we comment on their playing.
Right.
And we get about 4,000 members right now.
Really, 4,000.
Yeah, and maybe 100 or so become close friends.
I'm
So
sure.
I get a chance to go visit them throughout the country.
Yeah, and you got a group together that are in that region.
Yeah, yeah. There's 4 or 5 that I meet at least once a year. We rent an Airbnb and we play music all week.
Great. Now, what about COVID? How did COVID affect the group? Did you have some
Yeah.
Zoom conferences and Zoom
Oh yeah,
Zoom gigs and things of that sort?
Nest-
Jams, I guess we call them, right?
Yeah, there's some fancy software that's come out, and we've tried that to collaborate and put some arrangements together. And Nessie, New England Squeezin' that we talked about earlier, they did a Zoom Nessie last year. It was pretty good.
Yeah. It's hard to get 2,000-3,000 accordion players playing at the same time, though, I would presume.
No, everyone submitted something, and then they're just playing and talk about it.
Well, you know, they have those they get 2,000 or 3,000 guitar players in a concert hall or in an auditorium, and they all play the same
That's right.
the same riffs.
Yeah,
Yeah, have you guys done that yet?
yeah. That's Nessie's like that. Yeah.
They play Led Zeppelin all together. Okay, Dave, we've only got a couple of minutes left, so how about if you would knock out a medley of our favorite tunes?
All right. I'll try to give a sampling of the accordion.
Yeah, of all the genres, if you could.
This is an instrument that it's easy to learn how to play terrible.
Yeah, I presume.
You pick it up and you can immediately go and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, if you can play a chord with one finger, I guess you
Yeah.
can do that.
Play it well. It takes a lot of years. I'll start off with a song called Smile. This is an Edith Piaf song coming up.
Yeah.
Accompany myself.
Yeah, sure.
While the left hand's doing something else. Yep. Let's see. Oh,
You got to come back to Sorrento for us, right? Little vibrato for us, huh?
yeah.
Okay, how about, I know you got Godfather in there, the Godfather theme, right? Okay, we wouldn't be complete without a polka.
This is what the accordion was designed for, right?
Yeah.
Slip on the master key, master bass here.
Well, that was for my mother-in-law, God rest her soul. That was the only way I could get her to dance, if somebody played a polka. Okay, I want to thank our guest today, Dave Magliozzi, and the Renaissance of the accordion. Dave, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.